We're live. Fitness Business University podcast. This is Tom Langton. I'm here with Vince Gabriele. Vince, how you doing?
Not good.
We're just going right into it. Why? I'm sorry. We were talking before about what we were going to talk about, and Vince has a story that he wants to share with us. I didn't know he was going to drop on me like that. Go ahead, tell your story, Vince.
So, I forget what Vanessa was, but Vanessa was out. So I was.
Who's Vanessa?
Vanessa, my wife. So I was sitting on our back deck, and I was on the phone with a buddy from California. And I'm sitting there on the phone at the back deck outside, and all of a sudden I kind of feel something come up to me. And I look down, and it's this kind of furry looking thing, and it's so close to me.
Was it your fat cat?
Well, that's what I knew when I saw it. It wasn't my cat, but it was very dark outside. I couldn't really. I only saw and I knew it was an animal, and it came so close to me that I was like, all right, there's no way this isn't like a cat or something like that. It was a freaking raccoon.
Yeah.
That was like literally nibbling at my heels. So I got up and I'm like, ah, and it didn't budge. Like, this thing didn't move, and then I yelled at it. I'm like, get out of here! And it stayed right there, like on the deck, looking at me. Tom. It was horrifying. And so then, wait, hold on, let me finish this story, Tom. And so then it finally goes off the deck, and I run inside, and I got the screen door closed, and I'm looking, and I'm on the phone with my buddy. I'm like, dude, there's a raccoon! And I'm like, raccoon! And so all my stuff, I have my laptop out, my charger's on the deck, my backpack, I got books everywhere. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden this freaking thing comes running back up the stairs and comes onto the deck and grabs my computer charger and starts scratching at my computer charger. And I'm yelling at this thing, and I'm like, go away, and I got a broom in my hand, ready to go. And finally it went away. But dude, it was literally right at my feet. The fact that it didn't actually reach out and grab my foot was dude.
The reaction to that story, in my opinion, is going to be, there's probably a lot of guys listening to this that are laughing at that story for multiple reasons, but one being that where we grew up in suburban New Jersey, that's a big deal. But a Brian Sippets, a redneck type of dude, these dudes.
I'm sure he'll love a shout out.
But guys in Michigan,
it's in Ann Arbor, it's not that redneck.
But even the guys that I grew up, that I went to school with, that grew up in the farms and stuff, literally dealing with bears in their garbage cans, and you see a raccoon or a possum, and it's you see we're not used to animals. That's what I think you should preference the story about where we live and where we grew up. Is that we're not used to seeing wild animals.
Here's the thing.
I have deer. I have a lot of deer in my yard now where I live.
I'm okay.
And that's a new thing.
I'm okay seeing a raccoon from 40 feet away.
Yeah.
But when that raccoon is right on my foot,
yeah,
that's the different.
But there's
story.
people, there's people listening to this, and there's bobcats and mountain lions and shit. Bobcats. Seriously. But
what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the 4 secrets of small group personal training. So before we get into it, we did it
before we get into it.
Yeah, but last we we called it semi-private. So just so everyone listening, we called it semi-private. We changed the name to small group. It's the same thing.
We like small group. I like the term small group personal training. We called it semi-private for a long time. It was called fitness coaching for a little bit. We call it now small group personal training. We don't even advertise.
No.
It's not like we advertise that we do small group personal training. It's kind of a silly thing to do, but that's technically what we call it.
It's just semantics. It doesn't really matter what you call it, but just so we're clear that that's what.
But I do feel small group personal training is superior to semi-private.
As far as what the customers hear, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think having the words personal training in there is helpful.
Because I don't know why this was in my mind, but when you called it semi-private when I first started working here. And I used to always think if you told me you had a bathroom that I could use, but the bathroom was semi-private, I wouldn't want to go in that bathroom. You know what I mean? It never really made sense what semi-private meant. It was you go change in this room, but the room's semi-private. Like, is there something online? That's always what kind of stuff going on. That was like a creepy, that semi-private was like a creepy thing.
That's funny.
So that's what that just kind of triggered my brain. All right, that's good. So small group personal training, the 4 secrets. We kind of broke this down. And again, this is more of like how we actually set up the, we're not going to get into technical about like, sets and reps and stuff like that, but let's talk about how do you set this up. So we talked why it's important to the business and how you set up more of the business model around this. And this is really what the base, talk about this first. Our business is based around this program, yes?
Yes.
Why?
It's, when I started my business, I used to live in California, and there's a place called In-N-Out Burger out there. And In-N-Out Burger sells burgers, fries, and milkshakes. No chicken, no fish, nothing. So they can just get really, really good at that burger and make that burger the best thing ever. That's always how I envisioned my business, of having less to offer, but just making that one thing better and better and better and better. We're going to talk about the evolution of this program, but that's really why I've kind of decided to go with this model of, it's not like you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. This is our program. These are the different price points of this program. Which one do you want to do? So that it brings a simplicity to the sales process. It brings to a simplicity for the customer to buy.
But it also makes us really good at that program.
We can just continue to get better at that thing.
All right. So I just want to get that clear. It's like this is what we do. This is if we had to choose one program that we ran to be successful, it would be this.
Oh yeah, I mean we were looking at the numbers the other day. I mean probably 80% of our clients do a combination of small group personal training and our large group class, which is included in the membership. But there's very few people that do just large group in our membership, and the people that do it are members that have been with us for like 10 years, and they just have always, that's how they've always done that.
All right, so let's get into so this is really the four things you kind of have to have in place in order to make a program like this be successful, kind of how we do it. So the first one kind of harkens back to what we talked about in the last podcast. Is like we're kind of in between a one-on-one personal training studio and a large group, whether it's CrossFit or Honors Studio. We're kind of stuck somewhere in the middle of that. Okay, so how do we make that? How do you make that work? How do you individualize something for somebody but still have them train with multiple other people? How does that make sense?
So I was at the diner, my favorite diner, the other day, and
what is it? What's the diner?
The Prestige Diner.
If you're ever in New Jersey,
you gotta go to the Prestige.
Vince cannot get you a table. We waited in line.
I was like Mother's Day or something like that,
But Vince always talked about how he grew up, and Jimmy's an awesome dude, but you couldn't not get us a table.
What is he supposed to do? Get people up in the middle of their pancakes?
You ever seen Goodfellas?
No.
You've never seen?
Yeah, I've seen Goodfellas. I'm not.
They walk in the back door, and they walk up, and the guy takes the table out and puts it in. It's like the most famous
I
thing.
don't remember that scene.
People listening to this podcast know exactly what I'm talking about. If you weren't important, you get a table. Anyway,
yeah.
So you're at the diner.
So I'm at the diner, and this waiter seen multiple people, and I was at the diner probably 2 days before with a different group of people. And then I came, and this time I was at the diner and I was with my 3 kids. So me, a 6-year-old, 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old at the diner. Awesome.
Yeah, good times.
And so the guy, I asked for water. And normally I always ask for water with 4 lemons. And for some reason this time I didn't. I think it was like probably Joe was like throwing the crayons on the floor or something like that. So there was like crazy stuff happening around. I just wanted water. And he remembered that the last time I was there, I ordered a water with 4 lemons. And when he brought me the water, he brought 4 lemons with the water. So now waiters aren't doing one-on-one training, right? Every time they work, most likely it's in a group. And I was with a different group of people. It wasn't like he recognized the people I was with and he remembered me from that totally different group, but he remembered me and he remembered my lemons. And that is ultimate personalization in what would be a group environment. And that's what I think separates people that do small group or semi-private or whatever you want to call it, is how well you can make it feel very, very personal, but it still be in a group setting.
All right, so that sounds awesome. Now, how do you do that, and how do you multiply it? Because I think this is an issue that a lot of people listening to this probably have, and a lot of guys that we talk to that have, is like, you're good. So you're Vince Gabriel, and you know that's what you want to do. So when you're training clients, when you're training small groups, you're going to remember what everybody has, right? But now you're talking about hiring multiple trainers. We have 8 full-time trainers here. So how do you make that? How do you make that across the board?
Yeah.
How do you duplicate that? I guess that's the best.
Yeah, and I'm going to put this right back on you, in that you're pretty much the creator of what we do in small group personal training. And I look no further than the actual client card that we use. So why don't you...
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I think when you're talking about that, the biggest thing to remember is that you have to have a system. And that when we say that word every single time, is to have a system. That's really, I think, what separates us, is that we have a system for treating individuals, like giving them exactly what they need, but doing it in a group setting. Mm-hmm. So that system has to be created. What we found was, and it kind of talked about the evolution, when we first started, really the first 8.5, 9 years of our business, everyone had an individualized program.
Right.
So you can't do that. You can't. We wrote every single person. Every 4 weeks they got a custom program, and every month they came in and we re-taught them the next program, and we were able to do that for a long time. But as we grew, we kind of outgrew that model. So now we've kind of reversed it. So now the coach has all the information now in front of them, almost what we call a client card, and then that coach knows their injuries, knows their injury history, knows what's going on with them right now, knows what they did in the last workout, because we're charting all that on what's called a client card. So basically, it's just like they have a custom program, but they never see it. Does that make sense?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so but I think it's important, no matter what system you use, and we've done both, and we've been successful with both. So you can't give people custom programs in this and just have them trained. But again, as we go forward, we'll talk about why we kind of outgrew that. But
yeah, and again, going back to the personalization of it, you know, one of the ways to personalize it is to write programs for every person, so they feel like they have a program. Now, here's the thing, I would rather people do that than do one-on-one training.
And honestly, in my opinion, when you talk to people that are doing one-on-one, they want to transition to a small group, that might be the step you need to take. It'd be in my mind, it'd be tough going from training someone for years one-on-one, and all of a sudden you put them in a group and they're all doing a similar program. So that custom program, you still can do it. Like I said, we did it for a long time, but as we grew, we ran into a lot of problems with it. So the quality of the training was going down because of the custom programs.
Right.
And it's gone up since we switched it. But the most important part, in my mind, to kind of bridge that gap between individualization and training a group is to have a system in place, and that's kind of what we're doing. And the main bulk of our system is what we call our client card, which is basically just everybody has their own individual program that the coach has.
And the client card is how we can individualize it when there's not an individual actual program for the specific period of time.
Yep.
So again, there used to be a program that was written for 4 weeks. We don't have that anymore. There's a daily program, which we're going to get into in a second. But the client card is how we maintain the personalization for each client.
Here's the best way I can sum this up. To put a cap on number one. We've been on this for a while. Yeah. But like we said in the beginning, you and me, when we were first training, we had 30 or 40 clients. We could remember every single issue that everybody has.
Yes.
And we're at the point now, we're at almost 300 clients. It's tough to remember everybody's name, let alone their injury history and what medications they're taking and what they've done in the past. So all that does is that just puts that information that coach needs right in front of them, and that's what that client card is.
Yep.
All right, so that's number one, having a system in place to make sure that the coaches know about the clients while they're working with them.
Yeah, and making it feel personal.
Yep, and that's what that does. Okay, so let's go deeper on that. Let's talk about the coaches. So I think that's another big part of it.
Yep.
So talk, number one, talk about, and we did a hiring thing. So what type of people do well in what kind of coaches are you looking for?
Well, I mean, I think that the coach that you're looking for is someone that's willing to buy in to the phrase, this is how we do it here. Because I think that you have a lot of coaches that will come in and they have ideas in their head and they want to do it this way and that way, and they want to come in and they want to do their thing. And I think that doesn't fly if you're running a systematized program. The type of trainer you need is someone that says, okay, I understand that this is the way it's done. Now, how can I help make this system better? that's what you're looking for. Someone, so, one of our core values is constantly improve. Another one is be a pro, right? So they got to continue to make the decision that, okay, I'm bought into this, and we don't hire anyone. We show people very clearly of how we do it. The hiring process takes a long time, and we're very clear on this is how we do it here, and your job is to come in and implement this system.
Yep.
And there are some trainers that kind of didn't want that. They wanted to write their own programs and wanted this and that, and they weren't a fit for us. So I guess to sum that up, we're looking for people that will be bought in, one, bought into what we're doing, and two, be a resolving team player.
Yeah, I mean, I think the program has a lot to do with it. So again, going back to what we used to do was we had multiple programs. As we grew, we had multiple program writers, right? So sometimes our younger coaches who weren't program writers would just be on the floor, like watching over clients doing these programs,
right? And
they could get lost in the shuffle. They didn't necessarily have to coach much. Now we have one person that writes the program. We have that master program, and it's the coach's job to adapt that on the fly, which I think has made our younger coaches better.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's very, very rare that I see now people doing things that maybe they shouldn't have been doing or didn't necessarily fit for somebody they never saw. That happened all the time.
Yeah.
And the coach didn't really know if I'm like stepping on the program writer's toes. Our coaches have a lot of autonomy now. I think that's the biggest thing. But you have to have good people, and we have a system of how we get them ready. I think that's important. Is like they're taught. Here's the best example I can give anybody that are football people that are listening is, like if you think about Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, they have a system that they use, and they get to the line of scrimmage, and they look at what's in front of them, and then they make a play call based off of what they see from.
Right.
That's the kind of coaches that we want. We want people that are smart, that are going to work within our system, but now they're presented what's in front of them. So here's my 4 clients or 3 clients, and now I know exactly what plays are called based on what I'm seeing in front of me.
Absolutely.
When in the past, it was like having a freshman quarterback or a rookie quarterback, where we would just whisper in their ear the play, which was of the program that we wrote, and all they had to do was not mess that up. And I think they're 2 very different things.
Yeah, and going back to what we were saying before about like this being what we do and the whole, in and out burger thing and making this better, I think part of it needs to be the training process of the coaches.
Yep.
And you've done a masterful job of having, we have had a weekly meeting of just training, and most of the training meeting is about making the system better.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about these random exercises and new exercises. It's how are our clients doing, and is the system that we're currently running the best thing for the client? And that's just reinforced week after week after week after week. So I think that, if you're looking for what should you meet about, it's really about your meeting about how do you make a system that you have more effective and efficient.
Absolutely. So that's the coaching part. I mean, that's a big part of it. And I honestly say, like, this system is not easy to run if you don't have the right people. It's like anything else, right? Like, so you got to have the right people, and those people have to be constantly trained on what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. And here's the thing: they come back with a lot of feedback for us. We've been, how can we improve every week? We can improve it this way, the timing, the structure of it. So we tweak the system based on what they're coming back to us with. So it's really important.
You can't really have like I feel like one-on-one too. Like another thing with that, it's like it's easy to have turn a trainer into a lazy trainer.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's one-on-one. It's just you. I just looked at the camera. But it's one-on-one. It's like you can kind of lean on something where you're training 4 people. There's not a minute to spare.
Yeah.
There's not a minute that's going to go by. So you need someone that's going to have the energy to be able to boom, you're always coaching, you're always cueing, you're always changing things, you're always saying, no, let's change this way, that way. It makes the sessions fly by.
And also, I mean, you go back to who was the originator of the 10,000 hours? Is that Gladwell?
I'm sure someone before, but yeah, I think
whoever talked about, but you talk about, all right, how do you get a coach really good? Is you get on the floor, and they're training a lot of sessions, they're seeing people move, they're seeing things happen, right? If you're doing a one-on-one trainer, think about it. If you're working 40 hours a week, you're seeing 40 people. And it's probably less than that because you're seeing the same person multiple times in a week. Yeah. In a small group model.
And there's so much downtime where you're actually not even coaching.
You're not even coaching. Yeah. In a small group model, you're seeing 4 people every hour, different people every time they come in. So, I mean, you're seeing so many different body types, so many people move. I think our people have seen so much more than a typical trainer just because of the model. The model has made them better.
Yeah, and you could... It's a way that the group is small enough where you can get that hands-on coaching experience versus group exercise where there's 24 people, you're a glorified stopwatch.
You're just watching
You're watching and make sure no one kills himself, and you're watching the clock.
Yep.
That's the two things. But versus 1-on-4, you can get in there and you can get intricate with your technique and cueing and things like that in that way.
All right, so on that. That's a story for another time. We'll tell on that story later. All right, so 1 was the system, 2 is the coaches, 3, I think this is an often overlooked one that we learned the hard way. And this was honestly, this may have been what made us switch our model in the first place, was the setup of the gym. And that sounds crazy to people, right? But talked about the original Gabriele Fitness. So 9 years ago you opened. How many square footage was the original one?
6,000.
6,000. It was half turf, half weight room.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was 6,000. So we had about 2,000 square feet for just small group training.
Okay, so talk about what we had. Just give an overview.
So the story is, I was doing a closed meeting with a woman, and she was doing small group training, and we used to write the individual programs for people. And we had this template called cardiac output, something we got from Joel Jamieson's work, where basically you put someone on like a heart rate monitor program and you make just a giant circuit. They go from the sled to the TRX row to push-ups. And it's just this big thing. And the whole goal is just to keep them moving for an hour and keep their heart rate at a lower rate to pump a lot of, I'm not going to get into the science of it, but just, so it didn't take, these people were at a lower level. So it didn't take a lot of coaching, and after they knew the circuit, they could just go and do the circuit. So I'm doing the closed meeting with this woman, and trying to get her to sign up, and she's like, yeah. I was like, well, how'd you like your experience? How were your trainers? How did the trainers treat you and things like that? And she's like, well, I don't really have a trainer. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you did. She's like, no, I just came in, I did the circuit, and I didn't really have a trainer. And it's like she was just on autopilot, and she was good. She knew what she was doing. And our way we used to do it, where there would be there could be 16 people and 4 coaches just wandering the floor.
I think that's important. They talk about the way it was set up was that if we had 12 people in a group, they were all doing individualized programs, and the coaches were just spotting different people and walking around, and there wasn't
just open gym with individual programs.
Now here's the thing: the training was still good. And sometimes when we tell that story, I feel like in my mind it looks really bad, but it was somewhat organized. We just outgrew that because we got to the point where it wasn't organized and became unsafe. Right. So how do we change it up then?
So then we realized it's okay, we have people that don't even feel that they're actually getting coaching, and I got to credit Tom Plummer for this. What we did is we actually turned the gym into zones. And we call them pods, and then we of course went away from the word pod.
I don't even know what we call it anymore. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't call it pod anymore, but we basically created mini areas in the gym where one trainer would train 4 people in this same area, so they could stay on top and watch these 4 people. And then on the other side of the gym, you had another trainer working with these 4 people, but you had matched equipment. So you had a set of dumbbells, you had a set of kettlebells. So it's a little bit more of an investment in equipment. But in the grand scheme of it, it's a much better. But Tom Plummer is the one that kind of gave us the idea. But the reason why we stopped calling it pods was because people would start to bust on us that they're all right, we were you're in that pod over there, and they were oh, you mean I can't step over the line? They were saying almost felt like caged animals that they couldn't leave the pod. So we changed the word pod.
I also think to appease because here's the thing. The transition of this is tough when you're a strength coach. And I know for me, I wanted to be a strength coach, and you start thinking about transitioning to this model, and it's tough because there's certain things, there's certain limitations, and so the word pod and the word zone always bother me.
Yeah.
But then when it was explained to me, I can't remember, it may have been Tom Plummer that did it, but go to University of Alabama's weight room. And the University of Alabama, the biggest freaks in the world are walking around that place. But in the weight room is 25,000 square feet, but it's pods. There's a squat rack, there's a dumbbell rack, there's a bench. And so you may have 4 super athletes, but they're lifting in this 25,000 square foot facility, but really they're in a couple hundred feet. They don't leave that area. Yeah. Any big time college or NFL weight room that's set up in pods, you just don't realize it. Yeah. So when I thought of it that way, I was it makes perfect sense. We talked about how the old gym was set up with the equipment. Because you touched on equipment. So like we had a belt squat, we had a reverse hyper, we had we had all this really cool gear that we were a Vertimax. I mean, you name it. What was the jump we used to call it? The
MVP shuttle.
The MVP shuttle.
Sorry, which one?
Here's the thing. All of that, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about with one-on-one training, where it's like there's definitely things like if you have very specific goals, all of that stuff is really, really good. But how does it not fit? It just didn't fit what we were doing.
So the equipment needs to match the system.
So what does that mean? So why would a reverse hyper not match?
Because if one of the goals is to reach a certain amount of, if people want to grow, right, is to reach a certain amount of capacity. So almost the way you got to look at it is, okay, if we have this area here, and we feel like we can train 16 people very safely in this area with 4 coaches, but we want to follow a very specific system where everyone's doing similar type things. And even if you did individual programs, right, there's a really good chance you could have 3 people on a reverse